Welcome to 2025. Bitcoin is trading at $96,000. The year is closed, the quarter is closed, the month has closed. 2024 is now behind us. So in this video, I want to do a big picture update, looking at what could potentially lie ahead for the year, give you levels to look at, give you criteria to look at if we are still going to be in a bull or a bear, and overall just a massive update. So number one, this is going to take a while. Grab yourself your favorite beverage and be ready to dive in. And if you do enjoy this content, smash the like button. If you're new, subscribe. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts. What do you think Bitcoin is going to hit this year? Are we in a bull? Are we in a bear? I would love to know. And let's dive straight in. All right, so I think the best place to begin is just looking at the historic returns, since we have all that data since a lot of things have closed. So we got the quarterly close, 47% up for Bitcoin, which is nice and green. It's very much in line, as you can see, with Q4. You can see 56% here, 168, 58. So there's a lot of green, and once again, Q4 was green. The same with Ethereum, it was green. If we look at the monthly returns, December ended up being slightly negative red, unfortunately minus 2.85%, but basically a break-even month, nothing out of line with what has happened previously. 2022 was minus 3%, 2019, 2018 were both minus 5%. So it's kind of in line with what has been happening previously. And as you can see here, January now historically, it's kind of a mix of both. It's had a bunch of red, it's had a bunch of green, so it's really a bit of a mixed bag. February overall though is more green than it is red historically. And if you look at the quarterly returns once again, you can see historically Q1 tends to be green. We have nice green pumps, especially in the 4-year cycle. So 2017 was green, 2021 was green, and now we are 4 years later. 2025, is it going to be green, yes or no? Ultimately, time is going to tell, but we are now in that window where we are in the final 3 to 4 months of the 12-month post-halving window, where we have historically seen the biggest pumps in altcoins and basically the final move of the bull market cycle. So let me show you that on the chart. All right, so this chart is the weekly chart of Bitcoin in a log scale going back all the way to 2012. The vertical lines in gray are the halvings. We've had 4 of them. The red circles before the halving are the year leading up to the halving. And then the blue is after the halving, every single cycle where we've seen our bull markets in Bitcoin and altcoins. So as you can clearly see, there is a pattern here where in the 12 to 18 months after the halving, that's when we see the biggest gains, as you can see. Then, what is also important to note is that we are still following that pattern. This has happened for the past 12 years. So far, the year leading up to the halving in April 2024, that was a pump. We went sideways for a bit after the halving, and we started to move higher. So we are now 8 months past the halving. So the previous cycles have peaked between 12 and 18 months past the halving, which means if this is going to repeat once again, then we are now in the final potential 4 months of the bull market, where we could see the biggest gains in the next January, February, March, maybe April, right? So this peaked 12 months after the halving, 18 months for this cycle in 2017, and basically 12 months in 2021. So yes, while it could go as long as 18 months, let's be on the safe side, and if we are even lucky enough to get 12 months as a cycle peak top, that means the next 3 to 4 months are absolutely crucial. And if we do get crazy pumps, remember to take profits, take out initial, because once the cycle is done, we are in for a brutal bear market where price goes down only for like 12 months and then takes another 1 or 2 years before we get to another bull market. And I think the same will happen once again. So if you are up life-changing gains, if everything pumps like crazy in the coming few weeks or few months, be smart about it. Take profits off the table, at least remove your initial, because once the bull market is done, there's a lot of downside, and you don't want to be holding bags that drop 80, 90, or 99% throughout a bear market that's going to take 2 or 3 years to recover once again, and that is not even guaranteed. We are now in potentially the most promising time, but there are some other things to take note of So let me walk you through various potential scenarios. As you can see, Bitcoin is currently trading at $96,000. This is the monthly chart. And what we can see here, this is not a pretty candle. The December monthly candle closed as a potential top or reversal candle in the same way that we have seen these types of candles over here and that we saw in 2017. Now, what we also need to be concerned about potentially is the fact that the top in Bitcoin, or the high that has been made so far in December at $108,000, was on December 17th, 2024. Now, if we look at 2017, the cycle top for Bitcoin, the all-time high at the time, was on December 17th, 2017. So the exact same day in 2024 marked the current all-time high, and it did the complete cycle top in 2017. The only difference being that in 2017, it was 18 months after the halving, and now we are only 8 months past the halving. So that is just something to consider over there. And this may or may not be cause for concern. At this point in time, we have to wait and see what is going to happen, and that will be telling on lower time frames. So this is just a candle. We don't know for sure, but there are other things to keep an eye on. Now, what I will say before I go and show you those other things is that even in 2017, you can see it made a top in December. The candle next to it in January, it kind of came almost all the way back up and made a almost like tweezer top. So we could still potentially have a similar situation where we see the price of Bitcoin go to 102 or 104,000, and then if it rejects there, it might be following this pattern where it puts in a complete top. However, in 2017, when this top happened, we had a massive pump in altcoins that followed it, and we have not yet had the pump in altcoins. So even if Bitcoin has put in a top right now already, or will put in a top in January, we don't know for sure, then I still think there should still be some upside in altcoins, because I would be very surprised if the cycle tops and altcoins looked at the way that they do. Ethereum hasn't even hit the all-time high yet. A lot of altcoins are still way low in their accumulation phases. So I do think that just based on how the charts look, that a lot of altcoins should move higher, in my opinion, before the cycle tops. That is what I would like to see. Now, again, what is important to note is that this is just an idea looking at the monthly candles. We zoom out, there's all sorts of potential scenarios. And at the end of the day, if you look at the weekly chart, as long as the price is above the 50-week moving average, which I have here in blue, we're in a bullish trend, which means that the price could technically drop as far as 73,000, which is quite a drop. It's more than a $20,000 drop from current levels, and the bull trend would still technically be in play. So basically that means this, the March all-time high over here, we could still drop all the way back to that over here at 73,000 and then still continue higher. And this would be a scenario which obviously would be frustrating, because in the short term, it would mean that Bitcoin and Ethereum and altcoins would all probably drop a decent amount and put a lot of fear back in the market. But as long as then we hold this level, the previous high over here, and the 50-week moving average, it's still technically a bull market, and it could just continue higher. So that is something that you could keep an eye on. And again, if we look at the RSI, we have this bearish RSI divergence that also marked the top in the 2021 cycle. You can see it made a higher high over here, lower high, and then we had the entire bear market. We have a similar situation where we have this high over here that we made in December, but the RSI is not confirming it, and that likely means that a pullback is due. Now, it could be one of two things. It could be a complete cycle top like we saw in 2021, but we still don't have that timing yet. We're 8 months past the halving versus, in this case, that was 18 months past the halving, right? So there's a big difference in time. No guarantees, but again, if the cycle is repeating, that means we are not yet due for a cycle top. But what it could mean is this exact scenario that I played out here, that I drew out here. We could drop in the shorter term for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, drop back to 73, form a base, and then continue going higher. 18 months past the high, past the halving, would be in November, October, November of 2025. So if we are going to get an extended bull market cycle, a pullback like this would make complete sense. It would follow the bearish RSI divergence that we have here it would put a lot of fear back in the markets, and it would basically set us up for a potential continuation of this bull market into the end of the year. So keep in mind, nobody knows what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, and anyone can put out crazy targets and maybe they get hit, maybe they don't. That isn't helpful. What is helpful is an overall strategy and a framework of how to approach these markets, that no matter what happens, that you have a plan and that you are prepared. And that you're not just blindly holding and praying, because that is something that can get you completely wrecked. So if you have a plan and you are prepared for if it drops to 73,000, and maybe that's where you want to add, right? Or maybe you can hedge and short it until then, depending on lower time frames. There's all sorts of different things that you could do. But the main point here is that we have bearish RSI divergences on the weekly. We have this potential for us to drop to as low as 73,000 and still be in a bull market. So all of those scenarios are something to consider. We could also just continue ranging here on Bitcoin. Bitcoin could be between 95 and maybe 105,000, and altcoins could go absolutely nuts as they have in the previous cycle for the next 3 months. Maybe altcoins go crazy and we hit a cycle peak top in March. So there are all these various scenarios that you could be prepared for, and whatever one ends up playing out, that is something to consider. Now, if we're looking on the daily chart, for example, one thing that I'm looking for here is whether or not we are going to flip the fair value gap over here in combination, in confluence with this fib golden pocket retracement. So this is going to be in a very key zone where we are going to find out if it gets there, whether the market is bullish or bearish. It can still get here in my opinion. And then we have to find out, does it reject here? If it does, it makes a lower high and potentially continues back down to 80,000 or lower. If we can flip at this level, this 102 to 104, and we flip it to support, then we could see continuation higher. So on the shorter time frames, this is something in my opinion to keep an eye on. Now, if we look at Ethereum, it's trading at $3,400. It has been completely underperforming Bitcoin for the whole of 2024, and hopefully we see some catch up. So what we can see here is we have these equal highs, and they tend to get taken out at some point, right? We tend to see, no matter what the chart is, whether it's Ethereum, whatever else, no matter what the time frame is, when you see this kind of equal highs like this, at some point it gets taken out. So you can see we are currently above the 50-week moving average. As long as that is the case, hopefully we see Ethereum here take out the previous all-time highs. That's going to be important. I would like to see that before I think the cycle peak top is in. And if Ethereum takes out the all-time highs, that's hopefully when we see our altcoin season, and a lot of the other coins, the altcoins, hopefully are going to pump, and we are going to get that overall altcoin season that we've been looking for. In general, Ethereum and the altcoins tend to be the last movers of the cycle, and literally in the last few months, if not the last few weeks, we see the biggest pumps in Ethereum and altcoins. So far we've seen Bitcoin move, and we are approaching that last 3 to 4 month window of the 12-month post-halving window where we see these previous altcoins. So hopefully we see that. Hopefully we see Ethereum at least make new all-time highs. And for the rest, I would really say that we just have to take this a month at a time, a week at a time, even a day at a time. So based on the whole 4-year cycle, there is a chance that we still repeat this 4-year cycle, that we still have a bunch of upside to go. In the very best case, this runs all the way till November of 2025, meaning that it would repeat the 18-month post-halving cycle like we saw in 2021 and in 2017. Then the medium case, which would still be very, very nice if we get it, would be 12 months post-halving, which would be a top somewhere in March or April of this year, which give us 3 to 4 months of upside and probably massive upside in altcoins. That would still be very, very ideal. I would love to see that. I would love to take that, but time is going to tell if we get that or not. And then a complete worst case scenario basically means the top is in pretty much around now in January or so, like that, and everything is just going to drop. Maybe there's a black swan event, who knows, maybe the world gets locked down again, maybe there's other craziness. There's all sorts of things that are set to happen, starting even this month with January 20th, with Donald Trump taking office as the next president of the United States. We also have some bullish news where the FTX repayments of almost $16 billion could start as soon as January 3rd, which is tomorrow. So there are both pros and cons. I hope that this January 3rd, it's actually 60 days starting after January 3rd. So we don't know. Are they going to start tomorrow, next week, next month? But within 60 days of January 3rd, the FTX distributions start. Ideally, all of those distributions, or a big part of them, will go back into crypto, because people who traded crypto, they love to gamble on the markets. Maybe they start betting it, and that money flows back in during this time and creates our altcoin season. And that lines up with the last 3 or 4 months of the bull market. That would be the ideal scenario. Other than that, we have to wait and see. The charts are still bullish as long as Bitcoin is above the 50-week moving average. The trend is bull, and the trend is your friend until the end. So, fingers crossed that we have another 3 to 4 months left of this bull market. But whatever happens, be sure to have a plan. Be sure to be prepared for the markets to top, and be prepared for what you are going to do if the market drops. Where's your invalidation? You need to know. What are you going to do? Because you cannot just blindly hold. If you're going to do that, and we do get a bear market, and altcoins drop 80 or 90 or 99%, you get wrecked, right? So you need to have a plan. What are you going to do? Are you going to hedge with a short? Are you going to exit your positions at a certain point? Where is your invalidation? And that's obviously something that I'm going to be sharing on a daily basis in my VIP in the Discord, because that's easy to do that way. I can't all do that a year in advance in a single video here. I don't know, right? We have to take it a day at a time as the market progresses and as it shows us what is more likely to happen. It's also going to be very important what happens, I think, with the Donald Trump presidency. If that all goes smoothly and there's no hiccups, that's obviously going to be better for financial markets. It obviously depends. Are we going to get any black swan events or not? Is there going to be anything crazy that happens this year? 2025, it's a 9-year, right? You add 2 plus 2 plus 5 is 9. If you look at what was previously a 9-year, 2007, 2 plus 7 is 9. 2007 was the start of the global financial crisis. So 9 years, the number 9 in numerology, usually has to do with completion or endings, and that might set up a completion for this bull market into a new bearish market. We've also had rate cuts starting in September. If you look back historically, complete financial market crashes happened within several months after those first rate cuts. Then, of course, we are entering the year of the snake at the end of January. That's going to be the new Chinese year. And year of the snake sheds its skin. That represents change. For example, 2001 was also year of the snake. And if you look back what happened in the stock market, 2001 was a crash in the stock market. So there's plenty of things also suggesting that this year could be a bearish year. But whether that happens now or in March or in October or November, that is something that remains to be seen. But I think it is good to be prepared for a bearish scenario, but follow the charts. And as long as the charts still suggest technically being bullish, we stay bullish, because we have that 12-month window after the halving. And hopefully we are going to get a massive, massive pump still in the altcoins before the cycle top is in. So if you enjoyed this video, smash the like button. Make sure you follow for updates throughout the year. If you haven't joined me in VIP, there's still a chance. Link is in the description down below. And I wish you an awesome, happy, healthy, and very profitable 2025.